So now I've got a treat for you. I've got an interview with Vancouver-based filmmaker Brendan Prost. Let's go to that interview now. I'm sitting here with Brendan Prost, a local indie filmmaker who is based in Vancouver, BC, and originally from Calgary. Brendan is a recent SFU film graduate who has hosted CJSF's Sad Sack Serenade for a number of years. His background is quite eclectic, from acting, theater, film, and TV, and most recently, as a graduate of SFU's film program, he is releasing his third feature film, Spaces and Reservation. Also to his credit, he has 8 shorts, most recently in 2012, Jerk, and in 2011, Transfixed. That's just to name a few. He's got a couple of interesting things I want to ask him about today. Apparently, he used to take the family DV cam to shoot schlocky thrillers and horror movies. Now, that's got to be interesting. And as well, in grade 12, he shot a 1-hour-long teen suicide drama, Whodunit. So I'm going to be talking with Brendan about a number of his accomplishments and just to find out about, what inspires him and what led him to this path. So, Brendan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No, thank you so much for having me on. It's tough to get exposure for smaller films, and really appreciate you having me.
Now, just to start things off, I want to ask you about how it is that you got into film, because I understand, as I said, you were already filming when you were in high school. What led you down this path?
Well, basically my dad was a high school drama teacher for a number of years, and one year there was an open casting call at Theatre Calgary for a show they were doing, and just because, parents look for kids, stuff to get their kids involved in. They always think their kid's a big star or is really talented and that sort of thing. So they sent me out for that, and I got into that. So I got involved in theater very young, and I started transitioning from theater into doing film and television work, mostly just, commercial stuff. And then, it evolved into doing, TV movies and features and that sort of thing. And eventually, I just stopped being able to act because, I'm, can't play adults on television and in film because I'm very short and not particularly attractive. And eventually, started doing my own film work when I was, I just became really obsessed and really interested with films. And, I started to obviously, have things on my mind and was feeling and having experiences that I felt like I needed to share. And film, because I was so proximate to it through acting and through, my dad's videography work, it just seemed like a very natural creative outlet for me.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I understand that your most recent film, Spaces and Reservation, is to be released on May the 20th and 27th.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We're doing kind of a screening tour across the country, and we're beginning at the Rio Theatre here in Vancouver. So we have a screening on May 20th, and again on the 27th, 2 screenings on the 27th, actually, before we move on to screen in Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, and Victoria. And I'll be driving the film city to city and screening it in community theaters and hopefully, getting some people to come see it.
Nice. What an amazing way to release your film.
Yeah, I think the default method of distribution for independent filmmakers, tends to be film festivals. But, our movie is very unique, and I think we're in a kind of a special circumstance where, film festivals weren't going to be the best route for us. And we had this really exciting opportunity, I think, to, engage with the potential audience for the film directly, and to have this wonderful experience, like driving across the country and meeting people and talking to people and seeing the rest of Canada and just doing it yourself. I mean, like the degree of, autonomy that you have and getting to do whatever you want with your movie when it's just yours is really exciting. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to it. It's the thing I'm looking forward to most in my life for the last 2 years.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Now, I understand it's been a collaborative process making this film. For starters, I want to know the idea. Did the idea come from one person and then a group of people got together and added to it and contributed? Or did you come together and say, let's make a film? What should we make it about? How did it evolve?
Yeah, I had 2 separate experiences in my life that I was kind of, personally grappling with and how they related to one another and how they were different. And they were both experiences that I found very hard to understand. So it became very clear to me at a certain point that, the best way to deal with these things and to express what it was like to go through them was to make a movie about it. So I started writing notes for a script to make a film a long time ago, and I kind of saw my window of opportunity when the summer was coming up in between semesters at film school, and so I started detailing the script and knowing that I was going to do it then. So, the conception of the film and the scripting of it was entirely my own, but I always write a script in anticipation of working with actors. I mean, that's my primary interest as a filmmaker, is in collaborating with actors and bringing on their contributions. So once the film was cast around, a very full and a very detailed script that I wrote, I spent a lot of time preparing with Taylor Hastings and Zach White, who play the leads in the film, and the other actors as well. Getting them comfortable and familiar enough with the material that they would be able to improvise and make contributions of their own. So, we talked about stuff that's, doesn't even happen on screen, do with their characters, and so there's a whole story that exists that, it never shows up on screen. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of work that never manifests itself on screen that I think, that's the collaboration, and that's the added stuff that makes the scenes that do exist so much richer and so much more meaningful. So, like the actors are, their contribution is through improvisation and preparation and that sort of thing. And then the crew members that I had came on, very late to the project. I mean, in a film school environment, everybody's moving very quickly back and forth from different projects. So I was very fortunate to get to collaborate with a lot of great filmmakers, but who may not have even read the script, weren't even familiar with what I was doing or what my intentions were, and just, came on because they trusted me and they had faith in me, and they felt like I had earned an opportunity to express myself. So.
Mm-hmm. Am I correct? Was it filmed over the course of like a summer?
Not even a whole summer. I mean, all the pre-production and stuff happens over the course of the summer in 2012. But the actual production period when we were shooting is a window of 16 days, and we were shooting for 15 of 16 days.
So you took a day off.
we did take, well, not even that, because I would have been doing other production stuff in anticipation of the shooting period. So I was running around doing errands and that sort of thing and reviewing footage. But the crew and the cast, most importantly, got the day off because they're working the hardest.
You know what that makes me think of? It makes me think of when I've taken courses and I've been sitting with an idea of a paper and it's gelling and it's all there, and then I take, a 2-week period or less and I write it and I blitz it.
Yeah.
And often it's a very intuitive process that it comes out amazing because it's intuition and skill that come together. What was your experience in terms of working intuitively on the film?
Yeah, I think that's such a great description, because when you get in the zone, right?
Right.
And you're no longer overthinking things, and you're just working it. The only thing that's occupying your mind is the work that you have right in front of you. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, my previous film projects outside of film school they're sporadically shot. I mean, you do what you can here and there. I mean, that's the DIY lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But this was a very intense and very intimate production period where, for the whole 2 weeks, I mean, the actors and the crew and myself, that was all that we did with our lives. We only spent time with the work. We only talked about that. I think it's manifest on screen, and just it's so much more detailed and so much more rich when it's not like a patchwork of different days. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I think that cohesion was really essential for us. And obviously there are setbacks to working that quickly and in that short span of time. It was probably the most physically exhausting thing that I've ever gone through, because we were doing probably 10-hour days pretty consistently, and then I would have an hour and a half on either side of the day doing prep and crash work, wrap up work, while the rest of the crew and the cast finished up. Were already done, so they were just extraordinarily long days, and by the end of the period I was just ready to drop dead.
I bet.
Great results, yeah.
Wonderful. If we can go back a step, earlier you said there were certain things in your life that you were dealing with and you thought what better thing to do than to make a film. Mm-hmm. So would you say that Spaces and Reservations is autobiographical?
I don't describe the film as autobiographical. I think my films are emotional analogies. What literally happens in the film are not things that have happened to me. The characters that are on screen are not people that I know, and they're not placeholders for myself. They say and do things that I wouldn't do, and the people that I've had experience with wouldn't necessarily say and do. But what the characters experience and the emotional feeling of sitting there and watching the film hopefully invokes what I felt at the time of dealing with those personal experiences.
Right.
So it's I don't beat around the bush about it. It's a very personal project, and it stems from two very specific experiences that I had. But I'm not telling the story of those experiences. I'm hoping to invoke the feeling of being in those moments, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's pretty powerful and actually respectful to your experiences and the other people involved.
Yeah.
The Internet is a fast, open, reliable network that is diverse, free, and allows an equal exchange of ideas. However, this reality is being challenged by monopolies in the media, as well as by decisions made on issues such as Internet openness and usage-based billing. OpenMedia.ca is here to ensure that the decisions regarding the Internet are fair and citizen-friendly. We engage, educate, and empower citizens on the necessity for a media communication system that adheres to the principles of democracy. For more information, visit openmedia.ca or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
If you've just tuned in, you're listening to The Arts Edge at CJSF 90.1 FM. This is Annie Roach, and on my show today, I'm talking with Brendan Prost, Vancouver-based filmmaker. Let's continue with that interview now. Something that I was reading in your film, Choch, in your short film that was released in 2011, the independent critic said that this short radiates an emotional honesty that makes it one of the most intriguing and involving low-budget indies to cross my desk in 2011. I mention that at this point in our interview because in talking about spaces and reservations, it sounds like this is a quality that you bring to filmmaking, this deeply personal and intimate element. So can you talk about what Choch was like and if it compares to Spaces and Reservations in any way?
Yeah, thank you for reading that quote. It makes me sound so good.
It does.
I know. Well, I would just, start from speaking personally. I find it very difficult in my personal life to open up to people and to be vulnerable and to be honest. Not because I'm a dishonest person, but it's very hard for me to express myself. And film is an amazing opportunity to share things that are really hard for me to share otherwise. It's an amazing space to be vulnerable. I'm very unapologetic in that the film, I'm always very candid about the fact that the films are very personal. And I think I'm a very earnest person, and I'm very eager to share these films with people, and they're very, very important to me. And I just don't believe in hiding that or any of those things. I think that's the quality that people feel in the work that I do, is that they can feel that it's made by somebody who really wants to connect with them, who really wants to communicate with them. And they may not always succeed, but they can see someone who's really trying. And I think my films always come across as being very earnest. And I think that's what Richard is speaking to in that quotation.
It's beautiful. It's very beautiful. You're a young man. You're, how old, 24?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have incredible credits. You have 8 shorts. You have 3 feature films. You're really well on your way.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what is your vision for yourself in terms of your career as a filmmaker? Where do you see yourself going?
It's a terrifying question. I think it's become clear to me in the last few years that probably my career trajectory will involve, having a day job for the rest of my life in arts administration or, part-time work of some kind, because the film work that I do is not particularly commercial, and I don't see a space for myself in the commercial filmmaking world. I mean, I'm happy to take those opportunities when I come up, but a lot of folks in Vancouver, they get involved in the industry and they do, gripping work or lamp op work, and in the anticipation of moving forward, and that's a way to succeed in the industry. But it's just not something that I can do, because I feel a very powerful imperative to be creating my own work on a very regular basis, and so I need to have something that facilitates that. So steady income from a day job, and then doing little projects like this on the side, because I know that little films don't. They're not taken as seriously, and I think there's still a stigma about production value, and, great music comes from everywhere, and everyone knows that, but I think film, still, people don't believe that. But I really believe in the value of little films, and I'm happy to continue to make little movies like this for the rest of my life if need be. I think in the new media landscape, the really important thing is to be consistent and prolific, and those are my goals as a creative person. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. So if that means, slaving away at a day job for 9 months of the year and taking 3 months off, if it means making a film around a day job in the evenings, I'll do whatever.
And given the landscape of the internet, social media, YouTube, to name a specific site, there's certainly the venues online where people can see your work and see your film. What's your experience since you've been in film school and making shorts and making films? What's your experience of getting exposure online?
Yeah, it's like it's the double-edged sword in the new media landscape. I mean, so many great opportunities now and so much access for people like myself. But, people are just inundated with media, and it's so hard to rise above the crowd, right? And it's so hard to make yourself known. And that's why I feel like being consistent and being prolific is so important, because, one-off things, they pop up and then they disappear. I think it's so important to be regular about it. But honestly, I've had very little success sharing my work online.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, music's been very successful because music is something that's a part of your life. It's something you listen to regularly. I can listen to the same song over and over again. But really, most people don't watch a film, over and over again, especially an independent film, a film that they've taken a risk on and that sort of thing. And it's just, it's tough. I have not had much success. And honestly, I haven't seen a lot of filmmakers, truly independent filmmakers, having success online in a really, really consistent way and building a career online. I think we have yet to see that. I mean, my friend Aaron Crumley, who made Four-Eyed Monsters, was very successful doing that. And I've seen Zach Forsman in Los Angeles, who's doing really incredible work, crowdfunding work, and so is Gary King in Los Angeles. But I think it's so tough. There's no clear path forward.
One thing that I've noticed about your promotion of yourself, both on your personal website, business website, and the Film for Spaces and Reservations website, I really appreciated that you didn't just show the trailer of the film, you also showed interviews and people talking about the process. And I think, the way television has been in, say, the last 10 years with reality TV, people want to get inside a project. They want to know behind the scenes. Now, I'm not comparing you to reality TV because I think reality TV is crap so much of the time. It's more voyeurism. But the concept of wanting to know the backstory, I think that's what reality TV has done for the film industry. That is a good thing, is wanting to know the backstory. And we can go that route in an integral way that is really interesting. So now back to your website at spacesfilm.com. You've done that, and I think that is an amazing tool for promoting the film.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The tough thing about film is that for a lot of people it is like a very singular experience. Like you go, you watch the film, and you disappear. And with the amount of media that people get inundated with and the number of movies that people watch, the Netflix phenomenon, it's important that your film not just be a film, that it be a project that people can engage with. That it's not just the experience of sitting there for 140 minutes, in my case, and then having it disappear from your life. It's about creating like a whole thing that people engage with. It's it's all the value added content through the video interviews and things like that, behind the scenes footage, a blog, and an opportunity for your audience to contribute as well. We have a blog where we haven't had a lot of success getting people to ask us stuff, but people can talk to us. They can submit questions to us, and then we will answer and post stuff online. And then we also had like an image series, talking about the films that inspired us, influenced us, and comparing screen gaps between our films and other films so you can see the connection. So, I think it all helps people extrapolate meaning from your project. It's, context is so important to any artwork. And I think especially crucial to film because people often just have it as this island this experience. They show up to the theater and then they leave, and that's what they deal with. Mm-hmm. And it can't be that way. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, excellent. So on that note, I'd like to talk about the film Spaces and Reservations. Can you talk about what the premise of that film is? I know you talked about relationships before, but from start to finish, what is the path that you want to take your audience on throughout the film?
Yeah. Spaces it's a very intimate, performance-intensive relationship drama about this young couple, and it's important that they're young and that it's a first-time experience for them, and they've been together for quite a long time, and their relationship, as any relationship does, it starts to feel the effect of malaise and discontent as people grow and people change, and sometimes they don't change in the same way. And as they're drifting apart and kind of falling away from one another, they each fall for other people, but separately, and they're not kind of realizing that it's happening to the other person, even though it's happening at the exact same time, because they're not communicating and they're not talking to each other. So as the boy in the film, Jamie, as he starts to have this experience, he becomes very frightened about what the implications are, and that as he, has this affection that he notices that he has for this other person, it reveals to him so much about what's happened to his relationship, because he's not a bad person, he doesn't mean to be unfaithful, and he does honestly love and care about this person, but he just finds that his heart and his soul has changed. Mm-hmm. And although he looks at the surface of his relationship and everything seems the same, it's really not. It feels different to him, and he can't really explain it. And so he starts acting in ways that he's very surprised. But he eventually, he abandons this pursuit when he kind of realizes what's coming and what it means. And when he does, Casey, his girlfriend, reveals to him that she's been experiencing the same thing. She also feels lonely and isolated and alienated from him, and she too has fallen for somebody. And because he has had the benefit of this experience with this other girl and has felt himself being enlivened again, he can feel himself being, excited again, he encourages her to pursue these positive and these good feelings because he thinks it'll be better for her and that she'll be happier. And when he does that, and she starts to kind of slip away from him, and he realizes how much he loves and he cares for her, and this violation to their intimacy is just shattering him and breaking him. And so it's the latter portion of the film is about what it feels like to, break up with somebody as you're basically falling in love with them all over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's very powerful.
I hope so.
Well, it's a universal theme.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So often in films where one person falls for someone else, it's usually it's not usually both people who fall for someone else. So one person is usually left heartbroken and alone. But if they've both had the experience, they can actually understand one another.
Yeah.
And so it's a universal theme.
It's an important theme in Spaces and Reservations is the symmetry of their experiences, even though they're experiencing them separately from one another.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I like the title, Spaces and Reservations. Can you talk about where that came from?
It's hard to kind of describe exactly where it comes from. There are literal things in the film that I think it speaks to, but really more I think it's hopefully a figurative expression of the emotional experiences of these characters, and I just think it's kind of an evocative phrase. It kind of speaks to the gaps that grow between people and the things that make you hesitant about a relationship, and the things that make you hesitant about ending a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's about the gaps that grow and the ties that bind, I think. I think that's what it's in reference to. It's hard to say, really. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a great name for an indie film. It's so much better than Hollywood, Love Lost, or
Love Lost.
She left me, and then I left her.
She's Got Game, or oh no, I just named a Spike Lee movie. I think. Oh no,
He's
I left
gone,
Spike
she's
Lee.
gone.
He's gone, she's gone, and it's all bad.
Yeah.
What can I say? I'm not great with titles.
It's got integrity.
I hope it doesn't sound pretentious. That's my major fear.
No, it sounds like an indie film.
It's definitely from my Bergman influence. Like, I love one of the major cinematic inspirations for the film was Scenes from a Marriage, and so I look to a lot of Bergman films for motivation, and so he's got a lot of something and something. You know.
Oh, okay. Oh, I never noticed that. I'm going to watch for that.
Yeah, Fanny and Alexander, and
right.
Cries and Whispers, and I feel like there's a couple more, but I'm at a loss.
Well, for listeners at home, if they want to pick up tickets for the showings on May 20th and May 27th, where can they get tickets?
This is the best question because I get to pitch it to people. The screenings on May 20th and 27th, tickets are available online from our website. You go to spacesfilm.com. You can get tickets for the 7:30 on the 20th, which is the big premiere, or 6:30 or 9:30 on the 27th. They're $10 online or at the door. You can come and show up and get a ticket, not a problem. And it's at the Rio Theater on Commercial and Broadway.
And if people want to contact you about distribution, about future films, how can they contact you?
Yeah, if you're like a film producer, distributor, actor, and you'd like to collaborate or talk movies, or you're just interested in the movie, you can send me an email at spacesfilm.com, or you can visit my website, brendanprost.com. There's a million ways to get in touch with me. I'm a very connected person.
Awesome. Well, actually, just on that note, I noticed on your personal website that you actually have a page where you put out to people, do you want to make a film? Do you want to produce? Do you want to write together? I rarely see that on a website. That's a great idea. It opens it up, right?
Totally. And I get the odd, I get emails from actors telling me that, they're interested in my projects, and they send me resumes and headshots, and they're interested in working together. And, people just send me their projects and like, hey, can you check this out? I know you're a filmmaker too. And I love that. I absolutely love that. So I like to put myself out there.
Nice. Very cool. So before we wind things down, I have one more question.
Yeah, absolutely.
What inspires you in your life to create, not just to write and make films, but all around? What drives you in your life?
Well, I think sadly the answer to this question is kind of sad, but I'm inspired to make things when I feel like I'm experiencing them by myself, like when I feel like lonely, when I experience something and I think that I feel like no one else has, or that nobody else understands it, or that I feel like I can't express it and I can't share it with people, and it gets stuck in me and it fills me with anxiety, or it upsets me, and I just carry it around, and I feel compelled to need to share that with people. Just like people, if something happens to you, you want to talk to your best friend about it. Really, it's the same impulse. I want to make art about it. I want to make a film about it because that's the best way for me to express it.
Songwriters do that all the time.
I know, they do it so well, too. Oh.
I think what's cool about that is it's like you turn something that could potentially, if you do feel alone and isolated, it can become a very lonely thing that you could start a downward spiral. But if you turn it around and create with it, it becomes this positive.
Yeah, if I didn't have this in my life, it makes me so productive, and it keeps me focused, and it's so important to my health and well-being. I think it's an incredibly useful thing, and I would encourage anybody who's, has a hard, time with anything to try and turn it around and make it something cool and make it something exciting. And I know it's tough, but yeah.
Well, Brendan, it's been a real pleasure to meet you and to talk with you today.
It was so great to have me on. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me talk about the movie and myself. I know it's insufferable.
No. We wish you the best of luck with your film. And again, for listeners at home, you can get tickets by going online to spacesfilm.com. You can also contact Brendan at Brendan Prost. Prost is spelled Prost.com. And again, for tickets, you want to check out Spaces and Reservation. It will be showing at the Rio Theater on May 20th and 27th, and you can get tickets online.